It was an overcast Tuesday morning in the quiet suburb of Ashwood, Oregon. The wind carried a light drizzle as Laura Harper stood by the kitchen window, watching her 10-year-old daughter, Emily, finish her cereal at the breakfast table. Emily, with her oversized purple backpack and bright yellow raincoat, looked like any other cheerful schoolgirl. She was humming a tune from a cartoon she loved, and in that moment, everything felt peaceful, predictable, even boring. Laura poured herself a second cup of coffee, unaware it would be the last peaceful moment she'd experience for years to come. As the school bus rounded the corner at exactly 7:14 a.m., Emily slipped on her rain boots and kissed her mother on the cheek. "Don't forget your science project," Laura called out as Emily bolted toward the door. "It's already in my bag," she shouted back. Laura stood at the door and watched as her daughter walked briskly down the driveway and disappeared behind the hedge. She waited for the usual sound, the engine's low rumble and the brake hiss of the bus stopping. But strangely, there was silence. Curious, she stepped out into the light rain and looked toward the end of the street. The bus was gone. So was Emily. At first, Laura assumed she'd simply missed the moment. Maybe the bus had pulled up faster than usual. Maybe Emily had gotten on and everything was fine. But something felt off. Emily always waved from the window, always turned to smile before the bus turned the corner. This time, nothing. Laura shrugged off the unease and went inside, brushing it off as paranoia. By 9 a.m., she was at her desk working remotely from home, sipping lukewarm coffee, and barely glancing at her phone. It wasn't until noon that she got the first call from the school. The secretary on the line sounded confused at first. "Hi, Mrs. Harper. Just checking Millie isn't marked present today. Did she stay home sick?" Laura's heart sank instantly. Her hands went cold. "No," she stammered. "She left for school this morning. She got on the bus." There was a long pause on the other end. "Well, she never arrived." Panic exploded in Laura's chest. She hung up the phone without another word and ran outside, her eyes scanning the street, the trees, the neighbors' yards, praying this was all some mistake. Over the next few minutes, Laura called the school bus service, then the police. By 1 p.m., officers were combing the neighborhood. No neighbors saw anything. No ring camera footage. No tire marks. The bus driver insisted Emily never boarded that day. Yet Laura had watched her walk down the driveway herself. The last moment was clear in her mind, Emily's small frame disappearing behind the hedge. But what happened after that? Had someone been waiting? Did she turn back? Or had something unthinkable occurred in the 30 feet between her house and the curb? The police moved quickly, launching a full-scale search operation within the first 2 hours of Emily's reported disappearance. Detectives questioned the bus driver again, hoping he'd somehow missed something. He was adamant Emily had never gotten on. Surveillance footage from nearby houses was collected and reviewed. Most offered nothing but static lawns and swaying trees. One grainy clip from a neighbor's driveway camera showed the empty bus, pulling up, pausing, and then driving away. Emily was never seen on screen. It was as if she had vanished from existence in the mere 20 feet between her front yard and the street. Volunteers from the neighborhood and surrounding towns showed up, in droves. They combed through forests, parks, alleyways, drainage, ditches, anywhere a child might have wandered, or worse, been taken. Helicopters buzzed overhead while search dogs picked up a scent that led to the edge of a wooded trail. And then abruptly, stopped. "That's not normal," one of the handlers said quietly. "The scent just disappears." Like she was lifted right off the ground. That single sentence sent a chill through Laura that would never quite go away, as hours turned into days. Every corner of Ashwood bore Emily's face. Her school photo, gap-toothed smile, pink headband became a haunting fixture on telephone poles, community boards, and local news. The FBI joined the investigation, treating the case as a suspected abduction. A $50,000 reward was announced. Tip lines were flooded with calls, but none led anywhere. One woman claimed she saw a girl, matching Emily's description, in a gas station 3 towns over, but security footage showed it wasn't her. Another tip said a man was seen dragging a suitcase into the woods. Police found it, but it contained nothing but old camping gear. Laura, sleep-deprived and emotionally unraveling, refused to leave her home. Her living room transformed into a command center, walls covered in maps, pins, timelines, and notes. She watched the street from her front window for hours, sometimes days, hoping Emily might walk back up the path. She relived that morning, over and over. In her head was there, a car parked nearby she didn't notice. a sound she ignored. Had Emily mentioned anything strange in the days leading up to it? The guilt gnawed at her. The silence was unbearable. Soon the town began to change. People started locking their doors in the middle of the day. Parents walked their kids to the bus stop instead of letting them go alone. Rumors circulated about cults, traffickers, strange sightings in the woods. The normalcy of Ashwood was shattered and still. No one could answer the most pressing question. How does a 10-year-old girl disappear in broad daylight, without a single witness, a single clue, or a single trace? 2 years had passed since Emily vanished, and the world had begun to move on even if Laura hadn't. People stopped calling as often. The flyers faded, were torn down, or replaced with new missing posters. News outlets no longer covered the story. But Laura couldn't let go. Every night, she sat in the dark at her dining table with her laptop open, scrolling forums about unsolved disappearances, cross-referencing timelines, mapping out search zones others had long abandoned. She wasn't just searching for her daughter anymore, she was trying to make sense of a world that had betrayed her. Then, one night, at 2:37 a.m., her inbox pinged. At first, she thought it was another scam message, just spam. The subject line read, "You're looking in the wrong place." No greeting, no sender name. Just a single sentence and a JPEG attachment titled, look_closer.jpg. Her heart pounded. Laura stared at the screen, unsure if she should even open it. But she did. The image loaded slowly, a low-resolution screenshot from what appeared to be Google Maps. It showed a half-burned-out building, surrounded by overgrown grass, with no visible street signs or coordinates. There were no people, no cars, no context, just that empty, decaying place, and a sick feeling in Laura's stomach that she'd seen it before. She immediately forwarded the email to the local authorities and the FBI contact still assigned to Emily's case, but their response was less urgent than she expected. "It's probably a hoax," they said. Trolls like to prey on high-profile cases. They'd seen it before, people inserting themselves into tragedies for attention. But Laura knew this was different. The sender hadn't asked for money, or tried to bait her into clicking a suspicious link. It felt deliberate, chillingly so. The image wasn't dramatic. In fact, it looked painfully ordinary. That was what made it so terrifying. For days, Laura couldn't stop staring at the photo. She printed it, enhanced it, ran it through filters. She uploaded it to reverse image searches, scoured real estate records, even called urban explorers on Reddit to help identify it. Nothing. But her mind kept whispering that the building looked familiar, not in the way you recognize a place you've visited, but more like a half-remembered face from a dream. It nagged at her, like an itch beneath the skin she couldn't scratch. She started to suspect it was somewhere close, closer than she wanted to believe. One evening, while zooming through archived street views on Google Maps, something clicked. She tilted her head, rotated her screen, and adjusted the contrast, and there it was. The corner of the building matched an old structure behind a gas station on Route 9, a place she used to pass during summer drives with Emily. The gas station had closed down years ago after a fire, and the area had been fenced off since. No one ever thought to look there. Her breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just a random photo. It was a message. Someone knew, and they wanted her to find it. Laura's discovery of the gas station location ignited something in her, raw, obsessive, and unstoppable. She began staying up through the night, poring over every corner of Route 9 on satellite view, dragging the tiny yellow street view figure up and down the stretch of highway, searching frame by frame for any sign of the burned structure in the email. The more she looked, the more she convinced herself she was onto something. Her house darkened except for the bluish glow of her computer screen. Meals went uneaten. Days and nights blurred. Sleep came in 20-minute bursts. Her friends begged her to stop, but she couldn't. Something inside her knew she was close. One evening, while scrolling through an archived satellite image from 15 months earlier, her mouse hovered over a nondescript patch of land behind the gas station. At first glance, it looked like nothing, just a rusted-out barn half collapsed in the weeds. But when she zoomed in, her blood ran cold. In the top right window of the barn was a pale, ghost-like shape. It could have been light distortion, lens flaring, or it could have been a face. She blinked, enlarged it, enhanced it again. There, just beneath the window frame, a small, open hand, raised, as if waving, or reaching. Laura stared at the image for nearly 5 minutes, paralyzed. Her hand trembled on the mouse. Every instinct screamed, this wasn't coincidence. The barn wasn't just there, it had always been there. She began going backward in time using Google's date function, pulling up older satellite captures of the same spot from previous years. In one photo, the window was empty. In another, it was boarded. Then, a year later, there it was again. The same ghostly blur in the window, this time smaller, crouched. It was as though someone or something was living there intermittently, waiting to be seen. She sent the screenshots to the police, urging them to investigate, but again, they were dismissive. Those satellite images are usually months old. There's no real-time data here. We can't deploy resources based on a shadow in a barn, they told her. But Laura didn't hear them anymore. She had stopped depending on law enforcement a long time ago. The image became her obsession. She began tracking the pattern of appearances, cross-referencing the shape in the window with dates and moon cycles, weather reports, even livestock movement in the surrounding fields. Every time the image reappeared, it looked subtly different, slightly older, slightly closer to the window. Eventually, Laura went beyond Google Maps. She began requesting high-resolution, flyover images from private satellite databases. She signed up for monthly weather balloon imagery reports, even drone hobbyist footage posted online by local enthusiasts. Her home transformed into a digital command center, but in all the photos, one pattern remained constant. The figure only appeared in the window when the barn was captured facing west and always in spring or early autumn. Laura didn't fully understand the significance of that. But she didn't care. Her daughter, or someone, had been in that barn. She was no longer waiting for permission. She was going to that place herself. Laura drove out before sunrise, her knuckles white around the steering wheel as she sped down the lonely stretch of Route 9. The sun had barely risen when she reached the rusted gates of the abandoned gas station, the sky painted in hues of gray and faint pink. She parked a few yards away and slipped through a gap in the barbed wire fence. With every step, her heart pounded harder. The structure from the photo loomed in the distance, an old barn, weathered, and leaning like it might collapse at any moment. Crows scattered as she approached, their cries slicing through the thick morning fog like warnings. But Laura didn't stop. Not after 2 years of unanswered prayers. The barn creaked as she stepped inside. Dust filled the air, swirling like smoke in the shafts of early light cutting through the broken slats. The silence was suffocating. A single mattress lay on the dirt floor, filthy and sunken in. Nearby, she saw empty tuna cans, a broken plastic toy, a pair of mismatched children's shoes, one pink, one blue, and a worn-out backpack. Laura's breath caught. She rushed over and knelt down, flipping the bag open. Inside, she found a spiral notebook with doodles and handwriting she recognized instantly. Emily's. If you find me, my name is Emily. One page read, in shaky letters. Please don't leave. Tears welled in Laura's eyes, but fear quickly swallowed them. Emily had been here, recently. The barn wasn't just a hiding spot, had been lived in. Nestled in the back corner was a small stack of water bottles, the labels indicating expiration dates from just a few months ago. Whoever had kept her here had returned often. A rusty bolt lock dangled on the inside of the door, proof that someone had been securing it from within. Laura snapped photos of everything and called the police with trembling hands, her voice barely audible as she gave them the coordinates. But even as she waited, dread pooled in her gut. Something was wrong. The officers arrived 30 minutes later, weapons drawn. They combed the property, confirming Laura's worst fear: Emily was gone. Again, no sign of struggle, no fresh prints, but the evidence she'd lived there was overwhelming. Forensics swept the area. Dog teams picked up a scent leading into the woods but lost it near the creek, a mile north. She wasn't kept here full-time, one officer said. But she was brought back repeatedly. Whoever did this, he's been careful, methodical, and he knows the land. Laura's mind spiraled. Why this place? Why bring her daughter back, again and again? Was it a safe house? A prison? Or something even more twisted? As officers taped off the area, Laura stood in the middle of the barn, staring up at the window. The same one she'd seen on satellite view. It felt surreal, like stepping into a nightmare she had only imagined. But this place was real, tangible, and somewhere out there, so was Emily. Her scent was fresh. Her belongings were here. The walls still held her presence like a ghost, trapped in the wood. Laura didn't feel relieved. She felt hunted, like someone was watching. As if the barn was never meant to be found. At least, not by her. Following the discovery of the barn, law enforcement shifted their focus to the surrounding area. For the first time in 2 years, the investigation felt alive again. The FBI brought in mobile tech units to sweep through satellite feeds, traffic cameras, and even private surveillance footage from nearby properties and businesses. It was a race against time. Whoever had been keeping Emily had clearly moved her. But there was a small chance, a very small chance, that someone had captured something, anything, and then, almost by accident, a trooper reviewing archived footage from a rundown gas station 2 miles from the barn noticed something strange. A grainy clip from 3 months ago, timestamped 2:14 a.m., showed a man buying supplies, with a child by his side. The footage was low quality, but Laura recognized the figure immediately. The man wore a large hooded jacket and kept glancing toward the security camera. Standing next to him was a small girl in oversized clothes, her head covered with a hoodie, her body language tense, rigid, almost robotic. She didn't speak, she didn't move unless he nudged her. But then, for half a second, as the man reached for a pack of batteries on the shelf, the girl turned her head slightly toward the camera. Her face, though partially obscured, was visible, just long enough to confirm Laura's instincts. It was Emily. Alive, pale, older, thinner, but unmistakably her. Facial recognition software backed it up. The FBI ran comparisons across various databases and confirmed the match. But what made Laura's blood turn cold wasn't just that her daughter was alive, it was who she was with. The man in the footage, when enhanced and analyzed, matched an employee in the school system. Not a teacher, not an administrator, but someone easy to overlook, the janitor. Henry Carver, fired just weeks after Emily disappeared due to behavioral concerns and an internal HR report no one ever made public. He had no criminal record, no known family, and had fallen completely off the grid since his dismissal. Digging into his background revealed something even more disturbing. Carver had grown up in the same area, and he'd once lived on a property not far from the barn, an abandoned homestead his family had sold off years earlier. Investigators theorized that he may have maintained access through back trails and forgotten rights-of-way. A local store owner even recalled seeing him occasionally over the years, always buying camping supplies, always paying in cash. The signs had been there all along, hidden in plain sight. Yet no one had thought to suspect the quiet, middle-aged janitor who swept the halls and emptied trash cans without making a sound. Laura was shattered. The thought that someone who had walked those very school hallways, who may have spoken to her, smiled at her, watched her daughter daily, had orchestrated her disappearance was almost too much to bear. But it also gave her something she hadn't had in 2 years: a name, a face, a target. With this new lead, the investigation shifted from searching aimlessly to hunting deliberately. But Carver had done something terrifyingly efficient. He'd vanished. No paper trail. No digital footprint. It was as if he'd prepared for this moment. For years, after the revelation of the security footage and Henry Carver's identity, Laura returned to where it all began: Google Maps. The tool that had once felt like a desperate lifeline was now her weapon. She realized something strange had been hiding in the images all along. Fueled by a mix of obsession and maternal instinct, she dove deeper into the satellite archives, not just of the barn, but of the entire surrounding region. She began charting the barn's satellite appearances, scrutinizing every frame, every shadow, every object. What she found shook her to the core. She noticed a disturbing consistency across multiple satellite captures. From different seasons and years, there was often a small, childlike figure visible in or near the barn's west-facing window. In one image, the figure appeared to be seated. In another, standing, hand pressed against the glass. But most hauntingly, in one blurred but unmistakable frame from 18 months ago, the shape was looking upward, directly toward the satellite's angle. It almost looked posed, as if Emily or someone had been trained to stand there when those satellites passed overhead. Laura's stomach turned at the thought. This wasn't random, it was orchestrated. And worst of all, someone wanted her to see it. She started looking beyond the barn, examining fields, roads, rest stops, and forest clearings that surrounded the area. That's when she found something that no one else had noticed. Along a thin dirt road about 4 miles east of the barn, there was another structure, smaller, more hidden. It had no roof, barely any walls. But in one image, from 8 months prior, Laura spotted something chilling. A chalk drawing on the dirt floor. It was crude, done by a child's hand, and just visible enough to make out 2 stick figures holding hands beneath what looked like a satellite. Beneath it, the word "Mom" was faintly scrawled. It was a message, not to the world, to her. Investigators dismissed it again, calling it ambiguous visual data. But Laura didn't care. To her, it was confirmation that Emily had not only been alive but was actively trying to communicate. She hadn't given up. Even in captivity, she had found ways to reach out. The barn wasn't a hiding place, it was a stage. And Google Maps, ironically, had become the lifeline between a missing daughter and a mother who refused to stop looking. It dawned on Laura that the images weren't just clues, they were breadcrumbs. A twisted game of visibility and distance. Emily was being moved. Hidden, but never completely. The most recent satellite pass, just 3 weeks before, showed something new. The barn's west-facing window was boarded up, fresh wood, clean cuts, a straight hammer line. Whoever had been letting Emily appear there was now closing that door, literally and metaphorically. The trail was going cold again. Laura sat frozen at her computer, staring at the newly boarded window. It felt like watching someone scream and then vanish behind glass. But deep down, she knew what it meant. The captor had seen too much attention. He was changing his plan, and Emily was running out of time. 2 years of silence. 2 years of unanswered prayers, false leads, and sleepless nights. And then suddenly pieces began to fall into place. One satellite image at a time. One chilling clue after another. Emily had never truly been gone. She had been hidden. In plain sight, leaving signals, calling for help in the only way she could. Though the barn was now empty and the man believed to be behind her disappearance had vanished once again, the search is far from over. Law enforcement has renewed its investigation with new urgency. Surveillance is active. Leads are being followed. And Laura, she hasn't stopped looking. Not for a single day. Because now, she knows, Emily is still out there, and she's still trying to be found. Somewhere on a road less traveled. In a building long forgotten. Or maybe in the next blurred frame of a satellite image a daughter is waiting. And this time, the world is watching.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.